The May Championship Challenge is upon us, and for the 5 maps that you're going to be playing on, I've looked up a bunch of stats, I've looked at other people's guides, and I've combined all that information into a single guide. I'm going to give brawler suggestions for every single mode. But above all, I do have to strongly recommend you pick the brawlers that you're most comfortable with. If you're comfortable with any of the brawlers I'm listing today, I strongly recommend you go with those ones because those are going to have the best effect. But most of the time, just choosing the best brawler isn't going to get you wins. Picking the best brawler out of the ones that you can play well are going to get you those wins. And on top of that, I don't recommend switching brawlers too much in between matches because I know for me at least, it takes a while to sort of get in the zone of a particular brawler. So if you're switching constantly, you're going to get thrown off because the timings are different for every brawler with how you're aiming. So I recommend picking the same brawler for every single map or just switching between 2 or maybe 3 brawlers throughout the entire time. But that being said, let's talk about the first map, which is Factory Rush for Siege. Now this map is a bit more open in the center at least than most other Siege maps, so you definitely want to stick with more long-range brawlers here. If you're gonna run with a thrower, Barley is definitely the top choice, as he will be on a lot of these maps. He's just really strong right now. Belle is also going to be a great choice on a lot of these maps. She's just very good at taking control, especially at a really low level, which your opponents will be on this map since it's the very first map. She's very good at punishing those sorts of players because, one, they probably haven't faced too many Belles at this point, so they're not really aware that they have to spread apart when they get hit by her attacks. And also, even if they are aware of it, they just forget to do it a lot because they're not very experienced at the game. So Belle is going to be a great choice to take advantage of that at low levels, but on top of that, she's just a really good brawler all around anyway. Lou is a very good choice after his recent buffs because now he's pretty good at taking control along with being an amazing defensive brawler with his super and the ability to freeze the bots. So he's going to be a very consistent choice. Even if you do end up losing a couple sieges here and there, you're going to be able to defend really well and probably take little to no damage if you're running Lou. And Amber's just a very good all-around choice for being a strong brawler who can win her lane pretty easily. Moving on to Hot Zone, we're going to have the map Ring of Fire. So it's a single Hot Zone map, which means you're going to get a lot of brawlers that are great at dealing area damage or dealing with brawlers that are really clumped up because you're going to be facing opponents who do that a lot. Brawlers like Sandy, Poco, and Ems, their attack all spreads out and covers a massive area, so that's very good if you just stay near the main zone in the center and attack your opponents whenever they group up like that. You're going to be able to take care of them very easily. And on top of that, Poco is going to give you a lot of extra survivability. Belle is once again strong because if your opponent's all grouped up on that center zone, she's going to be able to deal a ton of damage because her shots are just going to bounce between all of your opponents. And because we're still only on the second map, they probably won't be good enough to know how to counter that. Barley is a great choice in terms of a thrower. His attacks cover a very large area, so it makes it very difficult for your opponents to gain control of that particular point on the map. 8-Bit is great because with his super, he's able to maintain very strong control of the center. I would actually give a bit of caution against using 8-Bit if this were higher trophies because Belle makes it sometimes very difficult for 8-Bit to make a really aggressive position of his turret. You usually have to place it very far back behind the walls, so that way an opposing Belle can't constantly bounce shots between you and your turret. But since we're so low, you're not going to be seeing many Belles on your opponent's team, so I think 8-Bit is still a great choice for this map. And even if they are playing Belle, it's still perfectly winnable. Pam is great with her Mama Squeeze star power to add that extra area control around the center zone, and Lou is also a very strong option with his super as well. Moving on to the third set of matches is going to be in the mode Heist on the map Safe Zone. So on this map, we're getting into more difficult games, so you want to make sure that your team is playing as consistently as possible, and the 2 brawlers that are going to help you do that are Colt and Brock, because they can break open these walls on the side of the map, which is going to be really good for ensuring that your team can basically go down the field in 3 separate lanes, and that's going to keep you far enough away from each other that you won't be grouping up and getting team wipes pretty quickly. And it's going to allow you to come at your opponents from so many more different sides, and it's just a really, really big advantage if you're able to break open those walls at the start of the game. So I would strongly recommend going with one of those brawlers on your team. You could go with both if you want, though I don't think it's really that necessary. In terms of other brawlers that are good, you could run Colette because she can just keep cycling her supers and using them on the opponent's safe, and with the mass attack star power, you're going to be getting another shield on top of that, so it lets you really solidify your position close to your opponent's safe, so Colette's a very good option for that. Barley is very good. He can reach the safe from behind the opponent's water. There's a lot of safe places for Barley to sort of just hide behind and just keep lobbing his attacks at the safe, and it's very difficult for your opponents to take him out without really investing a lot of time, and that's going to be a huge waste for your opponents if they end up doing that. Byron's another good option just for his really long range, and also the fact that your opponents are forced down this really thin channel in order to make it across the center of the map, and so it's going to be really easy to hit your shots. If you have injection, you're going to be able to hit through multiple people and hit the safe at the same time, so he can definitely get some value on this map as well. Bell is going to be good because as long as you get to your opponent's safe, you can bounce your shots off their safe, and that makes it really easy to rack up damage quick as well as keep your opponents under control. And she's pretty good for defense as well. With her super, she can really prevent any brawler from becoming too threatening. Crow is another choice that sort of depends on how good you are with Crow, but with his slowing gadget, he can make it very difficult for your opponents to even get anywhere near the safe. He's pretty good at just managing defense on his own, and if he ever gets near the safe, his super can deal a lot of damage. So if you are comfortable with Crow, I think he could be a very good option to take your opponents off guard on this map. Then the fourth map we have is going to be Dry Season in Bounty. Here there are a ton of walls, so throwers like Sprout, Barley, and Tick are all going to be very, very good options. Gene is also going to be a pretty good option for this map, since he can pull opponents even if they're behind walls, so that's going to be very useful to counter any sort of comp that your opponents play, because if they rely on the walls, you're going to be able to pull them away from that cover, and even if they don't rely on the walls, you're still going to be able to pull them out of any sort of position they're trying to maintain. Bell is just strong all-around choice for this map. Nani can be pretty good to hunt down particular brawlers that are hiding behind walls, and also just be a pretty big threat in her own lane. And since this is higher up, you're probably going to see a lot more meta brawlers, and meta brawlers in Bounty tend to be pretty squishy, so if you play something like Mr. P or Mortis, you can really threaten those weak, vulnerable brawlers by playing something a bit more aggressive like that, and you're probably going to find a lot of value out of it. The only thing that you wouldn't do well against with those brawlers is Poco double tanks, but are you going to see those coordinated teams at this point in the challenge? It's unlikely. Even if the opponents are really good, Poco double tanks sometimes can be a bit risky, so I think Mr. P and Mortis are relatively safe options for this map. But honestly, I'm probably not going to choose either of them because I want to be as consistent as possible and just choose brawlers that won't really auto lose to anything. And then finally, we're ending off with Brawl Ball on the triple dribble map. On this map, Poco double tank is going to be a very good strategy. It's very easy to just rush in on your opponents. You have brawlers like Jackie who can hit them through walls, Frank who can just destroy all the walls, and BB who can basically hit around walls with the hitbox on her attack. You can really play super aggressive with Poco double tank, so if you're going in with a coordinated team, that's a really good option to try. If you're going in solo with randoms, you can still go with Poco or a tank, but I think it's a bit more safe to go in with a more long-range brawler. Rico is a pretty good option with all the walls on this map. Sandy and Max work really well together if you're going in with two people, but even if you're going in with randoms, they're both very, very good on their own. They can provide massive support to their team with their supers. Barley is also really good because of all the walls and just the amount of control he provides when your opponents are pushed back into their spawn. If you get them there, you basically got a free spawn trap with Barley, so he's a very, very good choice on this map. And even if your teammates go with something really weird, if you're going in with randoms, with these brawlers that I just mentioned, I think you'll still stand a really good chance at winning. And that's going to wrap it up for this guide. Like I said, I think it's the most important that you play brawlers that you're comfortable with, that you have a lot of practice with, because that's going to give you the best outcome when you're under all the pressure of the match. You don't want to be stuck with a brawler who people say is the best, but you just don't really know what to do with them. So focus on playing the brawlers that you're comfortable with. If they're not ones I've listed here, that's okay, but if they are ones I've listed here, they're probably going to be the best choice for you if you are comfortable with them on any of these particular maps. So go out there, do the best you can, let me know how many wins you get in the comments, and I'll be doing the same.